Okay, hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. Today we have a little bit of a duel, essentially some comparisons for I think two watches that I personally feel are quite comparable, which many people don't really think about. And a lot of it has to do with the price, and I think a lot also has to do with kind of the stature of the brands. I mean, Sinn is kind of universally just fawned over. People love Sinn watches. They could get away with a lot. They raise their prices quite a bit. But for those of us who've been watch fans for a while, who actually remember, when these watches costed a lot less, there hasn't been much that's changed. It's not like they got more expensive, and a bunch of tricks started happening with the case finishing or anything like that. I mean, this particular watch, the 556, it would be pretty much the ultimate $800-900 watch. I'd say maybe even $1,000 watch, but it's not a $1,000 watch anymore. It's a $1,300 watch on bracelet anyway, right? And with the release of the new Prospex Alpinist, this particular one being the black dial on bracelet, the SBDC 087, I think there's actually quite a bit more parallel there than there used to be. Now you're getting anti-reflective coating underneath the Sapphire, which is a nice touch. Of course, you're also getting a factory bracelet, also another nice touch. Now, as far as the build, right, the overbuilt nature, the Sinn, hands down, it has, it's going to have chunkier, tougher bracelet and whatnot. But when you think about just the cases and really what you need, the Sinn's overbuilt to where the Alpinist isn't necessarily overbuilt. I think you could say its specs are a little bit throttled. Because it is, of course, 200 meters water resistant and whatnot, and it doesn't really need to be. It also has a display case back, doesn't really need that. Similar to the Sinn, right? The Sinn, it just takes the kind of the concept of that kind of everyday tool watch, and it just takes everything up a notch. Seiko, I think, really has done that with the Alpinist line, and in this particular iteration, I think it really highlights, that it actually is adding a lot of value with an MSRP around $750, although you can get them for closer to about $630. Well, some dealers are actually marking them up quite a bit into the $900 range, mostly because they're in such high demand that it actually is helping them from selling out, right? So they can basically, some people might pay premium because they're sleeping on these releases. But I will leave a link down below for Sakura watches, which is where I got my Seiko Alpinist, and they seem to have the best prices on the web that I've found, and they just recently restocked. So hopefully by the time this video airs, they still have some stock available. Definitely check it out via the link below. But wow, I rambled on for quite a bit. Let's actually get these pieces in hand. So as you can see, specs wise, these guys are, let it focus there, are pretty comparable. You got a 38 millimeter case, well, 38.5 versus a 39.5, 200 meters water resistance, black dial, really kind of go anywhere, field watch, aviation watch, everyday tool watch, and fine with water sports because it can be submerged. Although the thickness here is actually quite different, you can't really tell too much just by looking at it because the tricks that Seiko uses in building their cases. Even though this is, a 13 millimeter thick case versus an 11 millimeter thick case, because this is just a very basic kind of side slab, it's going to wear its thickness a lot differently than here with all of the contours, and of course the high polishing and whatnot is actually helping blend away a lot of the thickness, which you would think would be a lot more evident looking at 11 millimeters versus 13, but it's actually quite close, I'd say. And then also, right, you got the display back on a 200 meters water resistant watch, which is great. Because that it's just overbuilt to that level, to where, hey, it's not only water resistant way more than it needs to be, it's even has a display back, so it's just built to that next level up, when it comes to how solid that is. And of course, beautiful ETA movement there. Top grade, I'm sure. Just absolutely gorgeous. So, but when it comes to the Seiko, of course, it's an in-house movement, and a new one at that, because it has now 70 hours of power reserve. So that's really nice. Of course, the finishing is nothing special by any means, but you know what? It has some nice little striping on the rotor, some clean brushing there on the rest of the movement. So it does connect you with the watch as a mechanical timepiece in the same way. Of course, it's not quite as showy, although, you know, this isn't really meant to be showy. It's meant to be very utilitarian, and this is just kind of again, it's a bit of an overdo, right? This bracelet is quite wonderful, as you can see there. Look at that. You got like the hex connectors, nice and overbuilt, really great. The clasp, you know, you saw I was having a little bit of trouble with the gloves on, but even without gloves on, it is still, at the end of the day, you know, this piece is stamped, and then it's all pressure fit, and it takes a lot of pressure at that. So it's going to be very secure, and you don't have to worry about it, you know, flopping off your wrist or anything like that. But at the end of the day, it's a bit primitive. Now, not that the Seiko is, you know, any super special or anything like that, but it's functional, right? It serves the same purpose, and 9 out of 10 people probably wouldn't even care about the difference between, you know, friction pins holding this together versus these really overbuilt ones. And some people, you know, with the 200 meters of water resistance, it's nice to have a nice chunky, strong bracelet and whatnot. But is it really what you need, and is it really worth, you know, essentially double the price? So, I mean, is it really twice the bracelet, twice the amount? You know, and I think it really falls into that kind of, my highest praise of the Sinn 556 is that it's just flat out an icon at this point. It's an affordable icon. Anybody who knows what this watch is will immediately have admiration for it. If you know what a Sinn 556 is, or if you know what the brand Sinn is, even more so, you're just gonna be like, oh, that's an awesome timepiece, great pickup, maybe a little bit too small for a couple people's wrists, but generally is recognized as an amazing watch in the price range. A little bit expensive, but again, you're paying for kind of being part of the hip Sinn community, and being a bit of a watch insider. Now, the Seiko Alpinist has been that in the past, quite iconic. Especially with the last model, the green and gold, being so well received, and really establishing a bit of a cult following. And then with the Blue Dial Special US Edition, Blue Alpinist, that really helped, I think, grow the legend a bit more. And I think at this point now, I mean, even before, right, when you see someone with a green Alpinist, you knew they were into the hobby, right? It was a very similar thing, an affordable, iconic piece. And now you have something that is not only affordable and iconic, but it's also extremely wearable and versatile, which is really, you know, the bread and butter for this Sinn. It's extremely wearable, extremely versatile. What will this not go with? It just dances right on the border of tool watch, but, you know, still classy enough to really fit into dress watch situations. And if you really want to get dressy with it, you can get the glossy indice only dial without the numbers, and that even dresses up even more. But here, you're actually going to get, you know, a nice, you know, we get applied indices here. There are some printed elements, whatnot. You do get the great color play with the red, and the black and the white and the Prospex logo. You actually do get, they kind of go the other way when it comes to the date, where we're making it stand out, obviously, with the white date disc with black writing. And then you also get that, you know, really great magnification off of that Cyclops, which I'm not a huge fan of Cyclopses, but it works. As long as it's like centered nicely and it works, I'm totally fine with it. You know, it's not really an eyesore to me, especially on this watch, because it has so much visually going on. I think it actually does flow well with the timepiece. Here, Sinn pretty much does their best to hide that date, and I like the way they did that. They have it in a very symmetrical area there in between the 4 and the 5, and then they even turned the wheel itself so that it would be canted in a way that it would basically make everything parallel to the rest of the numerals on the dial, which I think is really great. But that's quite small, guys. I mean, if you're really looking for the date, you're looking for it. You're not going to just see it. And that could be a good or bad thing, right? Because some people who would prefer a no date are fine just looking at the time, and then if I need to find the date, hey, let me find it. But when you look at that, I mean, functionally, you know, it's quite a big difference. So and then also, you know, these guys actually wear pretty similar, so let's actually get them on wrist. All right, as you can see on my 7¼ inch wrist, really absolutely perfect wears on either side, right? I'd say one thing about the 556 is because of the larger numerals and the thicker index there, it does tend to squeeze the dial into the center space, making it actually visually appear a bit smaller. Where here, you get a little bit more spacing, but a lot more on the dial. And honestly, these in the video, it's going to be tough to tell because those chromed out indices typically are reflecting off things here. Of course, I'm kind of in a room that's only lit by the studio lights. Everything else is dark. So you're not going to catch as many natural reflections, but out in daylight, this thing definitely is going to be it's going to have a nice higher contrast. So some of you might be thinking like, oh wow, it's hard for me to even see where the indices are. They just tend to disappear. Well, they're reflecting off a dark room, that's why. But here, of course, there's no reflection to worry about aside from maybe the crystal, which does have AR coating on the outside as well as the inside. And you can see that little bit of a blue tint there. And I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but there's some hairline scratches in my AR coating on the top, which really frustrate me. But here you have the super clear coat from Seiko underneath, and it actually does a really nice job of you know, negotiating a lot of the reflections there, which the previous I'd say Alpinists don't do as good of a job because they're lacking that same treatment. So really great, and you can see there just the amount of information if you're ever going to use this bad boy as an actual compass. You know, it's there for you. But as far as just a daily wear watch, either of these in kind of any situation are going to fit your needs. And both feel great, and both have a bit of a following to them, have that kind of iconic look, and definitely are kind of on trend for the outdoor adventure type watch, which I think even a lot of fashion watches these days are trying to emulate. You know, if you just look at men's clothing in general, anything as far as on the outdoor or tactical trend, you know, you could easily see these types of watches on either of those wrists, whether you're, you know, out at the range or, you know, out camping or doing some water sports. This watch, either watch, would go really, really well. So let's actually set up some lume and low light transition shots. Okay, we'll go ahead and hit the lights. As you can see, neither of these are huge lume beasts, although we do have the lumed, you know, larger indices on the Sinn. You can already see that it's applied much thinner. And then, of course, I believe it's just C1, not X1 grade or anything like that. So it does appear nice and white in daylight, but as far as the glow goes, it's nothing really to write home about. While the Alpinist has, of course, Seiko's proprietary Lumibright, which is glowing really, really strong, even on the really kind of minuscule application there. So, you know, kind of different approaches that end up kind of equally being, you know, a dimmer watch, either by way of less surface area or just a thinner application. So let's go ahead and get the low light transition going. Is one thing I really enjoy doing for you guys, because you're not always going to be in a super well lit room or out in a field or anything like that. But one thing you can see there is the dial, the difference in the way that they catch the light. Here you can see the Sinn dial is much flatter. Again, you can get the option with just the baton indices versus the matte black dial, but the black dial on the Seiko does render much deeper black. Even in some transition here, you can see the reflections are, you know, making it seem like, okay, now, well, now it looks a little bit more gray in comparison to how black the Sinn looks. It's one of those things that can be a bit of an optical illusion. I'd say in 9 times out of 10, this is going to appear, and by this I mean the Seiko is going to render a bit darker in appearance as far as how deep the black is going to resonate. And not that there's anything wrong with the Sinn. It's a solid watch, and by no means was this comparison meant to, you know, show that it's not worth its value. I mean, obviously it was worth it for me because I purchased one. But if I was to buy the watch today, and let's say my, you know, my standards were limited to, hey, I just need a watch to fit this billet, right? I need something iconic. I need something I can wear every day. Let's say I had a 3-watch collection, and this was going to be my daily sports watch in steel. Which one would I choose? Honestly, for me, I would have to say it'd probably be the new Alpinist. I think it's just a very, very special watch. It has great roots, great lineage. The brand, of course, Seiko, very strong. Not that Sinn isn't, but I mean, there's a big difference between starting in 1961 and 1881, right? Sinn have created a very respectable brand and a very hip, fun brand, and I think they do get a lot of respect. Seiko's a little bit more hit and miss because they have some issues still, right? They have such a wide range of watches that, yeah, there's going to be some that are out there that aren't going to be interesting to you, and there's going to be some that are probably not up to the level that you'd expect, but it's a completely different ball game. I mean, this is the cheapest Sinn you can buy. This is the entry-level Sinn. Now, this is not the entry-level Seiko, right? But the cool thing is that it's just still about half the price and has equal, if not surpassing in specs in very many ways. Now, as far as fit and finish go, I'd say the fit is better on the Sinn, but the finish, I think, could probably go to the Seiko because it's just a little bit more complex in the finishing and whatnot. So it's a little bit of a trade-off there. As far as the iconic status, they're both very iconic in their own ways. You know, if somebody recognizes that you have a Seiko Alpinist on your wrist, chances are they're a watch geek too, and they're going to really think the watch is awesome. You know, probably in the same vein, of course, if somebody recognizes a Sinn 556, they'll probably be a pretty big fan. Although, I will say that because of Helmut Zinn's association to be Bell and Ross, some people might identify Bell and Ross because it's a little bit more mainstream than Sinn is. You know, they might recognize the larger Arabic numerals and think Bell and Ross, although Bell and Ross obviously only have that DNA because of Helmut Zinn, you know, and Sinn producing the original few Bell and Ross watches. So there's a little bit of a mixed lineage, a little bit of a mixed message, maybe not quite as clean. You know, when it comes to objective build quality, the Sinn is a more solid watch, but is it twice as solid? I don't think so. And a lot of it is an overbuilt nature, right? And some people say, oh, well, this watch doesn't need to be 1,000 meters water resistance. Give me 200, 300 meters, make it really thin, right? So there are levels of kind of diminishing returns, right, on those specs. And I think it's similar for this. This is a smaller watch that's very versatile, but I'd say the diminishing return on some of the overbuilt parts and nature of the watch don't necessarily make it that much of a better watch as a whole. It's just a really solid bracelet paired with a really solid case, paired with a really solid movement, and a very solid and legible dial and aesthetic. Versus here, it's more hitting the mark, what you'd expect from a watch that's, in the 750 range, plus or minus, give or take, a couple $100. So for me, I'm thinking Seiko Prospex Alpinist. I think it's kind of dethroned the Sinn as, I'd say, my recommended kind of go-to beater, everyday, stainless steel, ultra versatile, highly recommended piece that you can wear to a watch meet and feel completely comfortable about, but also wear to a night out as well. And I think if there's anybody that cares about watches, it's still a great story to tell. And if they don't know about how good these types of Seikos are, if they only know Seiko, from the department store, displays and whatnot, I think they'll be hugely impressed by this piece. So that's a great story in that. But you can also get some great stories, of course, swapping about Sinn and their German heritage, and really just how cool and the different types of technologies that they have in some of their higher end models. But it also is nice for the Seiko that it actually does have some higher end technologies within this particular timepiece, because it's a new movement with the extended power reserve. So anyways, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. This is a little bit of a long one. That's what she said. Go ahead and if you like the video, please do hit like. If you're already, please do subscribe for more content just like this. Definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks, guys.